we understand it's like an urgent thing. Like we have to understand what is the code to communicate with the global youth culture through the electronic language. Because young people nowadays don't do anything without their phones or computers. Because like they even date through electronic ways. I was reading an article about that kind of stuff, and there's even like this like statistics saying that young people now have even less sex because of the electronic digital media. It's incredible. Like not only because of pornography, which like destroys your sexuality, but also because people are having relationships through electronic ways. So it's completely crazy. And this.
Presentation that he designed versus the one he designed for me. So I'm just like,
it's mesmerizing. So now you can't see it. I can't focus at all.
This is design's privilege.
Wait, you might admit it.
Yes, right.
Come on, you don't have to say that. So if we're talking, like Lucas was talking about Facebook, and I'm gonna share some stats here that actually merge and add to what Lucas was saying, like the numbers. And, the first thing is, if Facebook was a country, for example, it would be the largest country, like with 1.7 billion people there. It's incredible because. Even in countries, as Lucas said, in countries like China, for example, there's like millions of people connected. And for me, I have this feeling that it's time, like we're in a crossroad, and it's time to stop thinking about missions in terms of geographical boundaries and start thinking about electronic boundaries. And that's the thing, because it doesn't matter, like we know that it doesn't matter where people are, if it's in Beirut or in São Paulo, in Berlin or in New York, they are connected to the same country, like social networks and everything. This is a graphic showing like a little bit of the proportion of people connected to internet and social networks. So it's basically 50% of the population of the planet connected to the internet. And half of that is our target, like in between 15 and 34 years old. This is a target we defined some time ago, and we defined our vision statement. And so this is our target. It's like 1 billion people.
That's it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
New Zealand has no one. It's just like.
You need electricity.
It's barely even on there.
In New Zealand, the sheep are connected.
The hot sheep.
And there's another number that is in my notes, but it's not here. But 50% of the target, 50% of these 1 billion people, they actually have smartphones connected to the internet all the time. Yeah.
Jeez.
So kids start using internet at the age of 3. It's, of course, this number is like a lot influenced by stats from big countries like the States or rich parts of Europe. But I could say that, for example, even in Brazil, which is like an underdeveloped country, it's the same thing. Like, I know like friends of mine that they have like tablets for their kids. It's like, I want to slap them in the face, but... And 50% of kids start with social networks at the age of 10, which is a little bit illegal, but that's the reality. So that's the thing. Like Lucas talked about Facebook usage, but in general, when you think about social networks in general, people usually, in average, spend like 106 minutes connected to social networks per day. That including Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, whatever, like all social networks. And an average user has accounts in 5 different social networks. And it's like crazy because people say they don't have time, but they have time to manage all that. And there's this thing that according to this, this is funny, but there's this Scandinavian Research Center. They published this number saying that 90% of all content and all data generated by the human race was generated in the last 10 years. It's like we think about missions and the problems we have with missions, for example, lots of phases of missions and obstacles, but we've never been in a moment we are right now. It's a completely different situation for humans. Like we have, it's 3.8 billion people generating content, commenting, liking, sharing things. It's a completely different situation. And 40% of all content generated right now is porn. So, 40% of everything published on the internet is porn.
Yeah, 60% are cats.
Cat videos.
There's even this meme saying that YouTube is basically cats, babies, and women's breasts. Yeah.
Not necessarily that order.
Yeah, or proportion. And among the 20 most successful YouTube channels in the States, 10 are about games. But that's another thing to
Video
remember.
games, yeah.
Video games, yeah. So the video game industry is now 220% bigger than the movie industry. They produce more, they earn more money, and they have more people engaged. There are 1.2 billion people playing games nowadays. I'm one of them. Yeah. And the most successful title is this one here, the GTA. Like the whole 16 titles combined is the most successful title, with 170 million people playing. And the game is basically about how to be a criminal, like how to rob, kill, rape, and it's like. So this type of thing actually makes me more like with this feeling of urgency, because we're late. Like, as Christians in general, we're really, really late for that party.
Yeah.
So that was the problem, and now I have like some suggestions. Of course, like we're gonna discuss that, and like we don't have like the intention to have all the answers and anything. Like we have to figure that out together and throughout the time and like the next months and years. But like some things that I thought reading and collecting data that could be like part of the solution is that it's this thing like. How many IT professionals we know in our churches or in our communities? And why are these people not engaged in missions? You know? That's for me, it's really serious, because these people, they are missing a big blessing, and we as missionaries, we are missing, like we're not doing our jobs. You know? Like they have the potential to reach people. Through technology, we can evangelize anywhere. So as Lucas said, we don't have to go physically from point A to point B. We can evangelize people through the internet in our office or homes. So it's a big tool, and we have to learn how to use that tool. And the thing is, like, one thing I always think is that it's cost effective. Since you can evangelize people anywhere from anywhere, you don't have to organize big mission trip, for example. You can start right now anywhere. So for me, it's like we have to start telling people in our churches of their reality, because people are already spending lots of time on internet and social networks. What are they doing there? You know, useless things. So it's like, for me, it's a change of paradigm. Yeah. So that's it. Now, Aaron wants to show his.
Well, before we do that, if there's any comments or interaction, I'm going to comment, because I would say that all of this is true, and we need to pursue this wholeheartedly. I think God is speaking to us in that way. But I'd also think there's some counters to this, in that the more connected we've become, and more there's a sense of we've also become more isolated, and that in fact, the face-to-face, the in-person has become even more of a meaningful thing than it was before. Like to put it in a completely different paradigm, they're finding in fundraising that hard mailers are actually more effective than they used to be like 10 years ago because people are inundated with digital images that something physical actually is meaningful. So I think we need to, there's counterbalances to this stuff where clearly we need to use these tools.
That's why I keep telling LW to call people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Not text them.
Yeah, well, that's our generation. Text.
Like call them up.
Well, maybe if you told him, if you text
Way
him,
You
faster.
shouldn't text him that though. You should call him to tell him to do that.
That's what phones do.
slash time I don't.
I do that often. So I think we need to think this through because I think that the reality is we want to do this, but it's that your guy in Beirut, the Muslim atheist guy, is saying this is the place I can be myself. Yeah. It's because they're in person and it's that personal connection. And our whole emphasis on community actually goes against this trend. Yeah. And I think people are drawn to real, authentic community. So I think there's a balance here that we need to strike. Yeah. You know, so it's a both and situation. Yes, sir.
I think a good example is the music industry that everything is digital, but also the vinyl sales have just shot up.
Yeah.
Because people just want to have the physical, and they are ready to spend the extra cash for something physical, but also something very special like a vinyl record.
Yeah, and I think people whether they know what this means, they're often searching for authenticity, right? And so they want something real, and often the challenge in the internet is it doesn't sometimes feel real, right? And so there's the challenges we have. Yeah. So, I mean, any other thoughts? Yes, Luke, and then Ken.
Well, just yesterday we were having the community discussion and discipleship, Ben and I was speaking to what you just said, Aaron, as well. We were talking about that, just how, for instance, with the community house in Brazil, we started doing a lot of shows in the back garden in a very informal, relational way, and bands that were used to playing on big stages were really keen to play in the back garden, just because of the very personal aspect of that, of being very intimate, very close to people. So I think I agree, and I think one point, I can't remember if it's Luke or Christian said that people are going out less, so they're not going as much out to the clubs and the big shows and things like that, but it does seem that they're more interested also in doing things at home, in kind of lounge shows or these
communal
stuff.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a point there, and people are looking for personal encounters, community, and being able to be together rather than just online.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my point was very similar. That, and we find, I know all you guys find, is that people will say things on social media that they would never say if they were there in person. Yeah. So there's no accountability when people are interacting on social media, and you get that same person in a room in a discussion, they would say it completely different. Yep. Or because they would be thinking about how other people would be feeling and responding. So it's creating also an environment where people are not thinking about other people, they're just thinking about themselves, in my view. So, like what I believe, I don't care if that hurt you, or I don't care whatever. Yeah. Whereas following it up with those in-person moments makes a big difference.
Yeah, but I believe also that it's part of the dynamics, it's part of the new code that we have to learn. Because, for example, Lucas, for example, has a guy working full time to, for example, interact and respond comments and messages. That guy had to learn, for example, how to deal with criticism, offense, like angry people, like stupid comments. But that's part of the code. Like we have to learn how to deal with that, because that's the communication. People are learning things through social networks, and they are speaking in a specific language of social networks. So it doesn't matter actually the words or what people are literally saying, but what is the overall behavior behind that. Yeah.
So how does some of the recent studies that show the more you're on Facebook, the more depressed you are, because you see a picture.
It's a hyper-realism idea.
Yeah.
Pinterest envy.
Yeah, and you think, well, their life is so glorious.
Like Wilson's life on Facebook is on.
If you feel depressed, you just look up Wilson and then you feel good.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's the other way.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's reverberation. So absolutely, that's a real issue, because the way people project themselves on social media is not in line with their real lives. And so then you look around and you see all these perfect lives around you and you go, my life doesn't look like that. So there's this inner turmoil. So that is something we can speak, and I actually think it's an opportunity to speak to that. So we're going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very glad that you bring that up, and it's kind of, I mean, I didn't want to give the impression that kind of we should only be like geeks all on social media and stuff, obviously. And there are a couple of things. I mean, first of all, I would have never myself imagined being into this, starting a ministry like that. I mean, for me, I was passionate about going to Beirut, meeting people, meeting real people, sitting down with them in the cafe, that sort of thing. However, I feel God's leading in this and God being in this. And so there's a layer of, I think, just as with the music scene, we need to be there. This is where people are at, and we need to be there. Just as they go to clubs or whatever. That if you want to meet people, meet them on those platforms. Yeah. And then, so there is, in this sense, there is justification in putting the message out there. This is justified in itself. However, for me, again, and I kind of maybe again I'm too conservative on this, but the vision is really exactly to go back to that, like use those platforms, but in the end meet people, real people, make real people meet together and be the community of Jesus followers together. Right?
I think it's also about extending the voice. Like for example, you take David's book Rock Priest. And if he was just, that has gone beyond and continues to speak far beyond what you can do. And I think that's just all internet, social media is. We need to be on that voice because people are constantly connected and it can go far beyond where we can physically go. Yeah. So it's both end.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this example to someone else. If you study missiology or how in the New Testament Paul and culture and the gospel and culture interacted, there's basic agreement or attestation of the fact that the Romans were very good with the whole road system. So the Romans built all these roads which made the whole empire being connected. And so Paul used, this was a very basic way of him using common day or current day technology, so to speak, to spread the message, right? And so in the same sense, that's what I see social media being. It's just a channel, this digital or virtual channel to get to people.
Yeah, and I think the point is, it will never replace real human interaction. It can't. No, we're not suggesting that, but let's not go over extreme to the other side and devalue the.
But it's not science fiction to say there could be a day where people are only in a virtual reality. Yeah. And where the only hope of reaching some people is going to be in a virtual sense.
Well, there are people that are addicted to video games. That is their life, and that's where they find their identity and their accomplishments, and even their living. And so it is.
So it's avatar evangelism, you create that world.
So what are you going to say, Marie?
Yeah, I would just like to kind of also challenge us that it's not one or the other or doing both. But I think, in my experience, I am a part of and have been a part of creating virtual communities where there's real caring about each other and looking out for each other and stepping beyond that depersonalization of one another and not caring. I think if we bring our values as lovers of Christ into our online communities, we can have a huge impact there. And in places where, I am all about physical community and being with people, but there are lots of people who I've built entire relationships with, and some of them I've never even met until years later, just over using social media and these formats, because if there's a commitment to live that kind of relationship that Christ calls us to with people, then we can do it. Why not?
Absolutely.
Why should the devil have all the YouTube channels?
Hey.
Nice. Good, Lawrence.
The key thing that you're saying is authenticity, and young people today, even in advertising and Facebook, they see these perfect worlds and they know that they're fake. And so I think even like Tyler Oakley, the most famous Facebook guy, he said the reason why he became famous was he shared real things every day. And that's why there's vlogs coming up, there's video blogs, all kinds of social media with real things, because people are really looking for that. Deep down inside, they know that there's something.
They want that. They want a real connection. So thank you for bringing up Tyler Oakley, because there you go.
I saw that. I don't know.
Okay, that's my question. Do you know who this guy is? Me and Ben next to this guy.
I had to look him up. Yeah.
Okay. So
Ever raise a hand to be curious?
Yeah, who did know, before this context? So Paige, you knew, who else had heard of this guy or would recognize this guy? He is one of the more famous people in the world, believe it or not. and one of the more influential. I want to illustrate this. Is the sound working? I need to get the sound working. So this guy is a YouTuber. And I think this is something we need to start understanding, the influence of YouTubers. YouTubers and online voices are incredibly influential. And these are becoming the rock stars of our era.
That's how a lot of present-day pop and rock stars became famous.
That's right. But these YouTubers don't even do like playing music like Bieber did. They just talk. They just talk to the camera. It's weird. And it's huge. I mean, Sandro's son, how old is he?
9.
What does he want to be when he's older?
YouTuber.
See, I mean, this is huge. He has his own channel. He has his own channel. Follow him. What's his name?
It's Alpha Junior Games.
Okay, well, see, he's a game YouTuber because that's huge. That's huge. Okay, so hopefully the sound's working. Just to illustrate the influence of the guy that Ben and I met. And it's funny because I've put Tyler into my Jesus and Secular World class. I use him as an illustration, and then Ben and I met him randomly. So that was really bizarre. And he was a really nice guy. We had a good conversation.
Is he a real guy, or was he just like pixels?
He's a real guy. Okay, so just for those of you that are unfamiliar with this world, I'm going to show this video. What this is he did a okay, by the way, he's a gay guy, and he's not a Christian. And so that is clear in him. And I'll show something else to illustrate that later. But I want to show this video in which he recaps 2015 so you can see how much influence he has. So hopefully this will work. So it's like after a while, you're like, I get it. You're a big deal, okay? It's 1 year. So it just...
And he met us.
And he met us. Well, that was this year. That'll be next year's dinner for sure.
A couple of dudes.
So I think I show that to illustrate to you how influential. Ben was at the Mall of America, which is in Minnesota, and I mean, you're walking around and all of a sudden you see all these huge crowds of girls, teenage girls, at a bookstore. And who are they there to see? Not Taylor Swift, but some YouTuber. I mean, these are incredibly influential people, and they are speaking to our generation. And what they're saying
messages aren't good.
No. So what I want to do to illustrate that point is I went through his videos because I started following him, and just because I saw how much influence he has. So I looked at some of his old videos.
And this was before you met him.
Yeah, it was, which is weird. And I went through some of his old videos just to kind of see what he was like before he was well refined and well known. And there was this video that said Christianity in a nutshell. I was like, that'll be interesting. So here's a guy, incredible influence. Let's see what he has to say.
He's changed a little bit.
And yeah, he's a lot less polished then. So.
Today I wanted to do something a little different. Don't get me wrong, I've always been a very spiritual person. I read all my fortune cookies and take them to heart. But I've never really been religious. So I've been doing a little bit of, I guess you would call it soul searching online. And I know that's the place you do it. And I figured, why not start with something that everybody has been ranting and raving about, Christianity! So I did, and I was looking up something online about it, and basically what they said Christianity was, tell me if I'm wrong, but the gist of it was, you are worshiping a cosmic Jewish zombie who is his own father, who can give you eternal life if you symbolically eat his blood and flesh, and telepathically tell him that he is your master. And if you do that, he will remove this evil spirit that is deep within your soul that everybody in humanity has within them, because this naked woman was convinced by a talking snake to eat the fruit off of a magical tree. Or something like that. So, I don't think Christianity is for me.
So, obviously that speaks to, it's sad, and I actually pray for him a lot, and these are the voices that are speaking to this generation, and so we have to understand that, and we need to ask God how to react to that.